Hey guys, a few months ago I was able to shoot extensively at the mall. They ran a contest, which meant that it was okay to shoot within the mall premises. The security guards would not mind you. I want to share some of the photos I took and some ideas you can apply to your own street photography. Idea number 1. Practice juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is about contrasting two or more elements in the scene to create an interesting image. Some examples of juxtaposition would be near versus far. We combine subjects that are close to us with subjects that are far from us, creating forced perspective. Many versus few. We separate a group of subjects from a single subject to create isolation or exude a certain mood depending on the context. Human versus objects. We combine human elements with inanimate objects to create a surreal or humorous composition. There are other examples like huge versus tiny, light versus dark, old versus new, red versus green, and so on. In this photo, I captured an interaction between a real person and a printed backdrop. It looks like the woman in the backdrop is removing the face shield of the woman passing by. This creates a relationship between different elements in the frame. Similar to the previous one, this is a juxtaposition of a person with something artificial or man-made. It is as if the hand is about to pluck out the guy using chopsticks. That interaction plus the text that says "fresh here" suggests the idea that the person is going to be eaten. This photo is a juxtaposition of a couple and two mannequins, a contrast between people and statues. There's no real story behind this photo, but placing the elements this way creates interest, making the audience wonder what the message is. Idea number 2. Incorporate geometry. We can hunt for patterns, textures, shapes, and lines to make our compositions more dynamic. By looking for geometry, we direct our focus to forms as an integral part of our photos. This means we will focus less on people or their expressions and focus more on the environment. In this photo, I used the roof to frame the people passing by. While the subject is clearly the two guys, my main focus was the triangle created by the roofs. The lines that are drawing towards the center also provided added interest. This photo is filled with rectangles. I focused on capturing the architecture while including a human element. The person may not be the first thing that you notice, but having him there adds a sense of scale. We know the area is huge because the person is small. In this photo, I used the roof to divide the frame into parts. This created subframes which are also irregular shapes. There are repeating lines on the roof and repeating patterns on the floor. Intentionally looking for geometry also enhances our appreciation for architecture. Idea number 3. Play with vantage points. We can look for unusual angles to create fascinating photos. For this idea, the focus is to find unique perspectives to add a different impression or surreal feeling to our images. I took this photo from the third floor looking down. This provided an alternative perspective to the scene, which would otherwise look boring if viewed at eye level. I juxtaposed the group with the lone man walking. The plain background also gave a minimalistic vibe. I kneeled down for this photo. I wanted the frame to look like it was coming from another kid's perspective. I wanted to give the impression that the plants were bigger than they really were. In this photo, I intentionally shot at a lower angle. Doing this made the dog appear bigger in the frame. If I shot this while standing, the dog would look smaller because of the distance and the angle. Idea number 4. Observe at storefronts. Standing in front of stores is a great way to practice street photography. You can look for interesting characters, play with reflections, shoot silhouettes, or just practice shooting close. This photo is taken in front of a restaurant. I captured this moment while the waitress was waiting for customers to come in. What drew me to this scene was the way her gestures were highlighted when she leaned on the glass. I positioned myself in front of this bright storefront and waited for subjects to pass by. Because of the brightness of the lights, I knew the subjects would be silhouettes. The juxtaposition of the woman in the poster with the girl on the phone was a bonus. This is a photo of a guy working at a coffee shop late at night. Because of the barrier, I was able to take a photo without disturbing him. The text on top of his head also added interest. So that's all I have for you today. If you want more photography tips or ideas, check out the playlist on the right. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm Kebs and I'll see you next time.